Right, ready? Think we're live.
Yeah.
We've got a viewership here. It's a wonderful good evening to everybody in South Africa and everywhere else in the world that are watching this video right now. It's a privilege, it's an honor to have you, whether you are in Dubai, whether in Australia, you're in the US. I know we've got viewers in the US, in the UK as well. So to everybody out there, welcome. It's spring has finally come to South Africa. Finally, it was delayed. People were busy making allegations spring, but now we are sure spring has come. This is another edition of Live Chats on Monday with your host Ronald Muringai, and today I have a special guest in the name of Kagiso Mphahlele. How are you, Mr. Kagiso, sir?
I'm well amazing, Mr. Ronald. How are you? And thanks for having me.
Perfect, man. I think you must just turn on your camera. When we're seeing your picture here in a suit, fella, we're not seeing you. Don't be intimidated by my handsomeness. Aha, there we go.
Much better.
Perfect. So when you are a coach, you are somebody who speaks on stages, you're somebody who's co-founded a group called I Grow Group. Where'd you get the time, bro? Why are you so busy and yet you're so young?
I had a calling and I had to attend it. So as in the initial beginning, I was aspiring to be an accountant. Yes, I graduated for that and I got my degree completed, but then I didn't have so much meaning from the accounting space because what I truly believed in was empowerment and connecting. So I used to spend most of my days, speaking on radio, engaging on leadership programs. So that's when I realized that, okay, maybe the whole journey of becoming an accountant is wrong. Maybe the whole journey is not about becoming anything, but becoming everything. So going back to where I used to be. So the accounting space was what I wanted to pursue initially, but then I didn't get meaning, I didn't get fulfillment from that. So I pursued my true calling of speaking and coaching. And what I do now is that not only am I a local coach, but I'm a global coach, speaking about the purpose of living your gift, you living your assignment, your true calling in life. So that's what I'm doing. I realized that when I was involved in campus, in many leadership programs, to say this is actually what I love because it used to occupy most of my time. So that's how I noticed the gift and made use of following that path because I got so much fulfillment from connecting and engaging with people.
I'm sure the conversation after that realization of yours to say, you know what, I'm studying this, I'm doing the numbers, I'm doing the PPE and the balance sheets and the income statements, but I'm actually not enjoying this, and even though you graduated, you got the degree in that, you say, and now you found your purpose, you found your passion during that time that you were studying all of that. I'm just trying to imagine now, how was the conversation with your parents, to try and explain to them that, guess what, Vatswari, this is what I wanted to do, but now I'm branching out to that.
It was a problem. It was one challenge that I had because, it was something out of the norm. And because where I come from and where we come from as South Africa, we couldn't have people to reference to say, this is a coach, he coached for a living. This is a speaker, he speaks for a living. So we were only programmed to think along the lines of going to pursue an accountant, a doctor, those kind of things, because that was the kind of profession that were so normal in our communities. So me to say, I want to be a coach, whereas there was nobody that could reference to, but I had this burning desire inside of me to say, this is actually what I want to pursue. But I couldn't have any people to reference to say, here's a coach in my community or in my street. We always had people who are accountants and all that. But then what I had inside of me was because I got exposed to a different life, which was different from theirs. So they didn't support the whole idea in the beginning because it was something that didn't make any sense to say, this is something out of the norm. So it was maybe it was so a problem to say they didn't be used to that kind of profession. So my dad, on the other hand, was saying that, I'm so skeptical about this because I don't know how is it going to be like in the whole journey, because it's sort of a journey that has so much uncertainty. Whereas my mom, on the other hand, was saying that, I don't understand this, but then let me be open-minded to it. Now, as I progressed and did all the radio engagements and say that make use of this link and listen to me speak, I invite them on my my engagement. So I also had events where I could just give them feedback. They could see me being published on student newspapers. So that's when they seen the publishing, the magazine articles, you know, the radio engagement to say, okay, this is now actually making sense. That's when I also had to reference people that I started knowing in the industry to say, this is what we do and this is it all about. But then in the beginning, it was just a path that they didn't know anything about it. To say they didn't know anyone who was a coach in our family or in our street. They never knew that people would speak for a living. But after me pursuing that, they started seeing the magazine articles, the student publishing newspapers, and they said, okay, it actually makes sense. Now, that's when it made sense to say, when they see me speak and now they see me having a global impact, it only makes sense now, because I used to make sure that I keep them in touch and keep them in the loop of what's happening in this whole new journey.
Right, I get you, and it's important thing that you kind of touch on there, because the reason why I ask, I think from our backgrounds as Africans, as Black Africans, as it were, it's unheard of almost for a child to ask a child, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up, and then they can speak about coaching and speaking and these fancy things that you guys are doing now. Now I imagine, of course, accounting would have been a safe bet for a young man like you. And they would have probably seen it according to that light as well, to say, you know, you're going to then make a living and be able to take care of your wife, who I'm sure you'll be marrying sometime soon. I'm sure she's listening there somewhere. And of course, have children, maybe 10 or so after that. So obviously it was going to be a difficult conversation. And now I'm trying to think, have you, in your experience now on varsity and after that, and in your coaching journey, encountered people who say, I'm only doing this because my parents wanted me to. Otherwise, actually, my heart is based somewhere else. And as a result, I'm struggling with 1, 2, 3.
Yes, I've came across a situation, you know. My mom once, you know, narrated a story from her personal colleague to say, there was this one guy who always had the burning desire to be a DJ, and the parents didn't understand the whole concept, to say, you know, my whole dream as a parent was to see you unfolding as a medical doctor. I always had this vision for you the moment you have just grown up. So the father had, the parents as a whole had the vision to say, this boy rather, he was a boy. So this boy should be a medical doctor in the upcoming years. So the father had always set the vision for the young boy, which the young boy never had, because he just came into the earth place. But then the father always had the vision for him, not even knowing what kind of challenges would he pursue in life. So the boy had the burning desire to be a DJ. Now, the parents didn't understand it. Now, you say that I am capable of going for this journey and getting the qualification and acquiring it and attaining it. But then my whole desire is just to be a DJ. So they didn't understand that. They didn't approve any of them. Now, what he did is that he became the medical doctor. And after becoming the medical doctor, he then committed suicide and left the suicidal note to say, okay, I've completed the whole medical doctor journey, but then this is what I truly believe in, of being a teacher, but you didn't allow me to pursue it. Now that I've completed the medical doctor, go and practice, because that's what then that you wanted by yourself, but then you didn't understand where I'm coming from. And it touched me because the whole story of it, it's something that I can resonate also to say, I had one child who's a colleague of my mom, to say that he was in the university doing his first year while I was doing my 4th year. Now, the parents say that, you know, I really love to see my child turning out to be someone like you who's in the accounting space. Now, let him also pursue this kind of journey. Now, the boy told me that, you know, as much as my mom wanted to be in this whole journey of being an accountant, but my whole desire is to be a rapper. He was aspiring to be a rapper. So the mom didn't understand it. Now the problem was one, that the boy didn't attend classes. He had to be monitored and followed up, because he never had that desire to say, let me go attend class for my accounting. So he was forced to pursue something that he didn't love. When I was so curious about it, I then asked him to say, let me just see your whole gigs and how you perform on being a rapper. And I saw how he would just fill up the stage, how he bring so much enthusiasm and so energy, and he will be doing well, you know, having so much audience. And to my point, I was like, the parent, okay, this is what I've encountered from the child, to say he has a burning desire to pursue something as a DJ, and there's basically a market for everything. People are in from gigs. So the parent didn't understand that. He wasn't open-minded to it. They just say it's either in accounting space or not. While the child was being forced to go to class to say, go monitor him. Is he at class? Is he at campus? But then he always had to be monitored. He would even just make excuse to say, we have a strike, you know, I couldn't write the test because I'm sick. Now it was a problem because he would always be forced to do something that he didn't love. But then for the DJ thing or the rapping thing, he will just, you know, fill up it on the weekends, and it'll be something great, and it'll be something that you know that it started from an early young age and is actually living it. It's not a thing that he wants to pursue it because, you know, he just wants to make a drastic change. But then he's been pursuing it all along, and he's making so much big with it. Now the parent didn't be open-minded to it, and that way he, you know, felt his grades because he didn't have the motivation to go to class. He always made the excuse when it's time to write. Now it's always a problem that when you impose, they will be forced to go to class, and they didn't have that benefit desire to say, I need to study for the test because I'm actually forced on this. Whereas the rapping thing will just, you know, be so great and have so much audience on the stage.
So from an idealism perspective, I hear you, and I think I would also encourage everyone to do that. But I'm trying to look at our background. I'm trying to look at our history and our economic status, as it were. And in as much as we, of course, want people to do what they want, and I really empathize with the story that you just said earlier about the doctor guy who, going through all of that, has done everything and then, you know, takes his own life. I really hope nobody ends at that stage. But with the realness of the issues and our people's really struggling to make it financially, where do we find the balance, you think, to chase that which we want to do, like rapping and all these other things that we know potentially won't pay as much, versus what your parents may think, you know what, we're not going to accounting because we know you're going to get a job. How do we find that balance between meeting the financial objectives, of course, and chasing the dream?
You know, I understand where they're coming from, you know, to say this new ideas of you becoming a coach, becoming a rapper, becoming a speaker, becoming a dancer. It's something that has no security of it. And I would say yes, because it's so much filled with uncertainty. But if you and I will be so realistic of how things are, there's no job that I can just safely say there's security on this. Because I, for one, I also have a couple of friends who are maybe like 10 of them who are currently unemployed. But from where we come from, it has always been a case to say, if you pursue a degree, it's always safe, because when you have this good degree of being an accountant, there's always so much value given to it. To say accountants, when you have this degree attained, you have so much security because it's in demand. It's in demand. But from where we are in the current moment, it's something of a totally different nature. To say that from where I come from all my class of 2019, which completed their degrees, probably like 80% of them are unemployed as we speak. Now, it's a case that I understand to say that it's safer on this side, but to just view things on how they are currently, there's no job or there's no qualification that you would say that you can pursue and work around getting paid for it, because you spend most of your time thinking about it. To say, I, for one, as a coach, yes, there's a problem to say, you know, being a coach, how would you get financially compensated for that? But then for the difference of people who are just playing it safe of being an accountant and who will just, you know, take a drastic change and a drastic drive, to say, I, for one, I occupy most of my time doing coaching and learning about it, and that's how I can charge people for it. I'm already nourishing my financial freedom from them. Now, as for them, they're just waiting for a job. You know, I understand from where we come back from, it was always a safe thing to pursue a qualification, but currently what we are faced with, we're in the 4-hour space now. When you do a physical job, it's not longer safe to pursue it because we're doing things remotely, those kind of things. So from there, from where they come from, I understand to say it's safe, but then from where you come from, you can just be graduated with so much qualification that has so much value. You can be unemployed with something that has, you know, value attained with it. So I would say that from where we come from, I understand it used to be relevant and applicable, but currently, it's not a case that you can place it because it's actually uncertain everywhere.
So if for example, if there's a parent out there who's listening to you right now, and thinking, this young man, he's full of dreams, he's full of passion, he's full of these ideal things. What advice would you give to them if they come to their parents, if their child could walk up to them today and say, Daddy, I want to be an artist, I want to draw pictures for a living? Well, what would you say, given, of course, like all these things that you've talked about just now?
I would say that, as a parent, you need to know that from how things were in the beginning and how things are, it's totally different. It's understandable to say from that era, it was just a case that people are embracing mediocrity and were pursuing, jobs which seem to be normal. But then currently, your children go through different challenges. And when it comes to a purpose, if you trying to go away from it, it's always going to haunt you back to say, come back to it. To say, your children are yours, but then they are spiritual beings, They might have your own values, but then they experience different things. Now, when they say that I want to pursue something like coaching for one, be open-minded about it, to say it's okay to challenge them and also support them. It's a case that it's okay to criticize them. But then as a parent, one thing that I always advise is that be open-minded about it, because in most cases, parents would be so close-minded to say, okay, this is a coaching and you get paid for it, but then they wouldn't be able to understand that or listen to you because they have just made their own conclusions about it. But then if they say, let's speak, and if we speak, I go also on an engagement to say I can come up with a different narrative of how I can do things. Now, the problem is the one is they are so close-minded about it, but then if they can engage on each other, they can always advise on, okay, now I see the vision, now I can support you on this kind of thing. But when you're so close-minded to say, no, it's either accounting or nothing, it's always a case that it's gonna make a problem that they will go in that whole journey with no motivation. They'll always come back to their true purpose. So one advice is that be so open-minded about it and have engagement and just see from a parent's perspective, how can I just support? What contribution can I just make for the child?
And now, that's the parent you're talking about, and for the child now, who's trying to break the news for something that you have gone through personally, and trying to have that conversation with their father, with their mother, to say, well, it's again, I'm no longer feeling this chemistry. I really want to do dancing. Now, chemistry bone. How do they put this conversation in such a manner that parents will actually listen to them? Just put some of your experiences in that equation as well.
So what you can just do is just to say that, let's say you've already entered into that space, you're into the medical space for one, you already pursue that kind of journey and you already at it. So what you can just do is just to say that I'm not going to take a drastic change to say I'm just resigning from my job, because maybe you're used to living a certain life and where bills are involved. You're having this bill that they need to be paid. What you can just say is, from the hours that I have, I will always devote a consistent hour to say, as much as I might be in the medical space, I can just devote 2 hours per day to say I'm going to pursue this kind of thing daily, be consistent about it. So if you just having this whole niche and you want to bring it out to your parents, it's you sitting them down to say, okay, I've already pursued the medical space and I've accumulated everything that has regards to this, but then I have this, purpose or calling that is inside of me. I can still go on with the whole medical journey, but then I'm gonna devote consistent hours on this whole new journey. Because if you just start something out of the norm, you cannot just say I'm gonna resign and start with it, because it takes time. So you can just say I'm still proceeding with the medical doctor journey, but then I'm gonna devote many hours on this day. The moment it grows, that's when the moment you can just say, I'm going to take this whole drastic change to say, I'm going to fully be a part of it. So what you can just say is that I'm still pursuing it, but then just be in mind that I'm going to devote this hours on this. Now, that's where you keep them in the loop and make them understand where you come from, keep them in the loop, keep them involved, keep them, giving them all the details about it. And that's when it will make sense on a nutshell. But they just don't say, I'm going to just resign and just avoid it, because it takes a journey. So from my side, it's something that I've started from the earliest 2017. That's when I discovered and also left my purpose, because it's from a while back. But then if you just started with it now, it's always the case that you can just say, here's something new, I'm going to be consistent on devoting hours on this. And that's when you know that, okay, the parents will now make sense when they just, be actively reminded and given information about this whole new journey that you want to pursue.
And a worst case scenario, somebody does that, they try and fill out their parents, they try and have a civil conversation about this, and parents get to the point, no, it is this way because we have said so. You are our child, we are paying for your school fees, and you will do exactly as we want. How does a person now move out of that and still try and pursue, or should they rather just subdue themselves, go through the process until they can become financially independent? What's your take on that?
If you have a way of getting a qualification and you realize your purpose, it's always the case that it's not a problem if you want to use that qualification, unless for a certain period of time, and also pursue the financial cost of that new purpose. Let's say you want to pursue something that is related to you starting a business. You can just say, I already have completed my degree. I've already have this knowledge, which I can just use it for having the financial means to finance the cost of this new JD. So let's say you have a dream of maybe opening up a business of a salon. You can just say, I'm going to just work for getting the financial means. But then for one, I already started my journey from 2017, and it was a case that from when I got into 2020, I've already worked on my branding, on all my things. So in terms of me getting the financial means, it's okay because I can still use it from the coaching. I can still coach people and get paid for it. But then if someone just realizes that they want to pursue into coaching, they cannot just say, I'm leaving their job and start the whole new coaching journey. So if, let's say, the parents say they have paid for your tuition fees and you have this, something like this, it's always the case that you can still use the qualification to finance the true calling, to say, here's the qualification that I've attained, but then it's going to be short-time based. I'm going to also pursue something of a long ride after having the financial means to pursue it. That kind of thing.
And where's the drive? I'm just trying to think here that, okay, this is what happened for you in 2017. You decided to take this path. But say, for example, you hadn't, and you pursued the accounting and potentially ended up working there. Where's the worst case scenario? What's the worst that can happen if the parents have the upper hand in this particular case, and you didn't, for example, do what you did in 2017 and chose rather to listen to your dad and your parents?
It's gonna be a bit of a shock for them, because it's always the case that they just assume that because I, for one, I used to get it right. I graduated record time. It was a shock that you always got this thing right, but then what happened? Because you always had the whole means of you getting the qualifications on record time, getting good grades on that. But then when it comes to what you call meaning, you can still get a job and be financially compensated so high. People get paid something like maybe roughly 80,000 per month, but then the job wouldn't give them meaning. They would say, how can you just live a job that is so paying? How can you just live a qualification where you have been so great at it? But then me, for one, I used to be good with the accounting, but then it didn't give me so much meaning to say, this is actually something that I want to pursue. Because even if I was working in the office, I could just see that I'm getting paid, but then it does not give me any meaning. So it's a case that it's going to come as a shock to them. But the one thing they need to understand is that as much as you can get a good job and get financially compensated for it, there's what you call meaning, waking up every day, getting paid, and just, living a non-fulfilling life. So when you just feel like it's not fulfilling, that's when you're going to come and take a drastic change to say, this actually is a job and it's paying quite well, but then I feel like I don't have any meaning from that. That's when the parents would be so shocked to say, how can you just live an accounting space where people are getting so much compensated for that? How can you just live a job that is paying so well for you? Now, it's a case that it's going to come as a shock, because they will understand where you're coming from, to say, I lack meaning, or they have the means and the money, but I lack meaning. I just wake up with no meaning or fulfillment of life.
And from your perspective, is that such a bad thing? I'm trying to think. You are a development coach, you are a life coach, you are a betterment life development coach. Is there such a bad thing to struggle with the issues of meaning whilst ki dula ko Sentin, ki jamunati, ki ako Paris for holiday? Is it a problem?
You know what? they are started this what you call consumerism, ne? Consumerism is just to say you are using the pegs of maybe living in something to make sure that you want to put it as a match to say this is a fulfilling life. You know, what I define as purpose is you getting inspiration and getting drive from serving others.
Kagiso, you still there? Looks like we're stuck here.